President, TNA Delhi branch. So on behalf of TNA Delhi branch and Nursing Teacher Association of India, I welcome you all for our second webinar of the session, Empowered Nurses to Empower Nurses in India. We all know that day to day you may be busy with attending so many conferences, updates, and lectures. This program is a little bit different the way what we are trying to sensitize you. The reason behind it when we start the program is my personal experience. Every professional have the same experience as I believe that. So nurses are doing great job day to day and they are visible. There is no doubt about it. But still, I have seen through my experience, somewhat they were nurses are, even they have very good potential in terms of and their knowledge and skills, they are underperforming or perform. That reason, two reasons behind that. Number one, lack of system in India, especially in nursing, in terms of the career progression or their education, continuing education, so many other reasons we can say that. So another one is lack of motivation. The lack of motivation within the professionals or motivating others. So these all both can be the priority concern from the TNA point of view, especially in Delhi branch. We know system is take time to, that system to take time to create. It's miles to go sometime we can believe, but we don't want to stop our work. We don't want to, stagnate ourselves due to lack of motivation. So we wanted to motivate ourselves, to motivate others. That is not possible still again. We know we are diverse country. Sometimes we may engage in so many other constraints. So that's why we motivate, I motivate myself, I'm trying to motivate others, same TNA doing, but still we need kind of inspiration is required. The inspiration is still today very easy, possible to do, show by the people who are doing good job in either my senior or our level or maybe junior. We thought that to recognize them, to bring into the forum, to inspire others, they can also do the better tomorrow. That's the reasons we doing that empowered nurses to empower nurse. This is where they are going to present. They are not going to share only the topic, their vision. Again, I repeat for you, their vision. The vision, only they're carrying their life career pathway, very beautiful and very satisfied level. Still, they are progressing in terms of what they are able to do. And overall, our objective or aim is to achieve the outcome. That outcome is the community outcome, patient care outcome. That makes us to be very visible. That's why I'm very proud to introduce or welcoming the two eminent speakers today. And the first speaker, the very eminent and he's a well-known person in nursing today, Dr. Ravi, and one more person, Mr. Matthew, still young person, is a very energetic, dynamic person. So every program, we are going to have different third or fourth webinar. Every month, we are going to have fourth week of Saturday, 12 to 1, we are going to meet you with this. Introduce the two good people, inspiring people, doing the best in terms of clinical, in their teaching or research, whatever. They make the differences in the routine life. So we want you to be there in the whole session, at least 40 to 50 minutes to attend to get your certificate, and it can be recorded. And we know that we are able to manage and monitor them or they are attending with the positive to know something and to inspire them. The second one is you also doing something different. Please keep connecting with us. And please, Bindu Madam also will share that to you, that what the email ID, please to send your CV. From Delhi or across India, we really wanted you also to bring in the forum to inspire others. Okay. Thank you once again. I once again thank to, it's not welcoming alone, to my team from Nursing Teacher Association of India and Delhi branch, my Secretary Saini and coordinator, everybody who are all team members. And again from Dr. Farooq as a chairperson from the teaching association, Maria Madam and Sudharani Madam, everybody who are there to helping us, supporting us. Now it's over to Dr. Farooq to introduce the speaker. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, one and all present over here in a virtual platform. Today we are here in a second webinar session, and I'm very much glad and God has given that opportunity that today I'm introducing a eminent personality, a legend in nursing, Professor T. Samuel Ravi. So he no need to introduce because he is a legend in nursing. And if you will see the experience, over 24 years experience in emergency nursing, in trauma nursing. While if we will see the disaster management response, he is a member and coordinator of disaster management response. And while he is a core committee member of Asia Pacific Emergency Disaster Nursing Network. While Sir is a former additional professor, Asian Institute of Medicine, Science and Technology. He has worked as an additional deputy dean, College of Nursing, CMC, Bangalore. Sir is an additional deputy nursing superintendent at CMC, Bangalore. Sir is a head of the Department of Emergency Nursing, Neurology Nursing. Sir also is a nursing director. And if you will see the achievements, he has published many of the abstract and all the things in the index and international journal. Sir is a speaker in national and international conferences. Sir has acted as a trainer and educator for CPR, adult, basic and advanced emergency and trauma nursing, while disaster management, hospital, fire management, hospital response, communication skills, mass casualty management, simulation and tabletop exercise in MCM. As I told, Sir has acted as a disaster management resource, not only in India, also abroad in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, China, Wuhan, Tokyo, Japan, as a virtual presentation. Sir has assisted in developing protocol for COVID-19 response. Sir has developed the multiple trauma ER disaster protocol, not only in state, national and international level also. So I welcome you, sir. I welcome you for this session.
Thank you, Dr. Farooq, and it's been wonderful listening to what you shared, and I thank God for this wonderful opportunity. I want to really appreciate the Future of Nursing India perspective, especially Dr. Gopi and the team. As a family, we are working together, and it's almost like, you know, in our language, we say mind voice. Sometimes we speak loud of what's running inside the mind. So I think this is a good platform where we open up opportunities where we can reflect and look at the similarity of what we learn and practice. I think it's a wonderful forum. So let me move on to the topic that I need to talk with us today. Fine. Okay, the topic that I am going to speak to you all is about breaking the boundaries from a nursing. Now, what becomes very important is that we as nurses, I trust most of us had choice of joining nursing. Some of us would have joined by virtue of the only opportunity that we have, especially with the job. So we are going to look at the context of what is a boundary and how as a trauma nurse, you can be involved in breaking the boundaries. I'll expand it as I keep going on. Number one, we need to look at what do we mean by the word boundary. Now, a boundary is a clear place where you begin and other person ends. Now, if you talk about boundary, there are professional boundaries, there are personal boundaries, there are family boundaries, there are social boundaries. So, the proximity differs, whether be it physical, spiritual, psychological, or economic. See, your close friend can put your hand in the pocket and pick up your money because that's the proximity that you can leave. But if you recall at home, your spouse can easily put in your pocket and pick up the money. The space is so narrow that you're so close. On the contrary, when you look at a social or a professional, the distance becomes a little different. Why do we say that? Because we talk about professional boundaries as complex, because it involves personal values, culture, and ethics. Let me give an example. Your personal boundary is that you would like to talk a lot. Okay, that's your personality. You're so verbal. But if you're going to work as an operating room nurse and going to be scrubbed up for 2 hours or 4 hours where you cannot speak, then the whole thing becomes a complex. So there's a challenge between your personal boundary and a professional boundary. So why are we talking about this boundary in the present context? Why it becomes important when we talk about it? Because if you look at the very idea of empowering the nurses through empowerment, you find the challenge is day by day increasing because of the multifocal approach the healthcare system is moving on to. So this flow will look at how we who join as a nurse can break that boundary to establish our role in the healthcare performance. So when we look at boundary, what's your personal perception of the boundary? What do you think when you talk about a boundary? What comes to your mind? Usually when you talk boundary, what comes to your mind is international. Your territory has a boundary. Between two countries, there are boundaries you cannot cross. The boundary between India and US, without a visa, you can't even board the flight. So usually we think of the bigger picture of an international or a territorial boundaries. But today we are going to look at our professional boundaries and how we can evade through it to achieve a good quality patient care and an empowered attitude that we can take. Now, are we benefited because of the boundaries? Boundary do help us. If you don't have boundary, you are in deep trouble because anybody can walk into your location, into your house. If you take professional, same thing happens. Like medication. You are empowered to give medication. As of now, there are other professionals who are not empowered to do that. But if on the flow, if it's permitted, then the boundaries get broken. So that is why it becomes important for us to have boundaries. Now comes the most important challenge for us. That is the role clarification. So there are three terminology we need to look at personally. One is your role identity. What's your identity as a nurse? When I worked in the emergency department, when new staff join, I tell them, you don't call yourself staff nurse. No more you are a staff nurse. You are from now on an emergency nurse. Or you become a trauma nurse. Or if you are in a surgical ward, you become a surgery nurse. Now the idea is that that's not your designation. That's not your title. But within our mindset, it becomes important. Even though I have been introduced superlatively in many forums, whenever somebody asks me, who are you? Then I tell them, I'm a trauma nurse. Leave again everything else. The professor is a time period. After that, it is not there for me. The head of the department is a time period. After that, it is not there for me. But what remains is a trauma nurse. Even though I am post-retired, I still can be a trauma nurse while I travel or move about and carry on to that. One of the biggest trouble that the young nurses is having is a role identity. So they believe that I am a nurse and people are not treating me well. I want to be empowered, but I'm not able to. I'm given responsibility, but I'm not given. I'm given accountability, but I'm not given the responsibility. So people look at the struggle. So on one side, they look at, should I continue running? Especially the young fresh nurses will look at bed making, bath and temperature, looking at those things and look them as trivial and look forward some high funder terminologies associated for the care. But I would recommend that the first thing that you need to look at is your role perception. Now, if you, I don't know, I have been recommending many times, if any of you are interested, just do this opinion poll or a study. What is the perception of the nursing profession by the people? That's all. So you take a sample of 500, 100 nurses, 100 teachers, 100 businessmen, 100 IT professional, 100 uneducated common man on the road. Have a small questionnaire and look at how people look at our profession. It will be very interesting to look at. It's an assumption that I'm having. It's very interesting to look at whether the other 400 are looking at our profession far better than ourselves looking at our own profession. That becomes very important when you talk about role perception. Because many times what I used to do is that when students write their case study, I leave it across in my lounge or in the doctor's, what you call the table where they have a cup of coffee. So they go through and then they call me and said, I can't, your nurses are learning so much. They're learning about biochemistry, pharmacology, and but I don't see that being put into practice, in interpreting X-rays or speaking onto that. So I think what remains very important is the role performance. Okay, that becomes very important because your role identity is based on your role perception, but above all your performance. So if you look at, there are 5 types of boundary, especially when it comes to leaders. Your horizontal is within your peer, your colleagues, your friends. How do you look at each other? And what are the boundaries that you draw between each other? sometimes we ourselves are divided. We ourselves look at within our own community, some professionals are a little lower and I am better because I work in this particular area or in this particular hospital, which is not right. Vertical is the hierarchy between your supervisor and between yourself. That boundary, some places is very friendly and it's user friendly. You can talk very easily with your supervisor and make amendments. But there are areas where you will not be able to reach out to your supervisor. They may be a little rigid or stereotyped. So that becomes a challenge for you. Your stakeholder. The stakeholder is a common English and business language. I'm not using it here, but yeah, I'm using it here. The boundary that you have with your patients in the clinical care area or in the public health. You look at the boundary is very diminished in the clinic, in the patient and between you. The patient is willing to talk to you, personal problem, wants counseling from you, willing to take medication, trusting what you give unto them. The boundary is totally broken onto that. Even the relationship between our colleagues from other healthcare, between the nurse and the doctor, the nurse and the physiotherapist, the nurse and the pharmacist, okay, and nurse and the housekeeping staff. You see, there we break the boundaries by our professional efficacy. That becomes very important. I don't know whether you recall sometimes, the doctor would ask who's on duty because he wanted to know the competent person on duty because they will report very easily in a quiet good. I remember when I was a little young, I'm not actually old, so I'm using little young. Now I'm young, so earlier than that, little young, I was in a spine surgery ward. So at night, a post-op spine patient was there. So at night, the doctor called me and said, the surgeon, the senior most spine surgeon, asked how is the patient. So I said, sir, patient is okay. He said, go check and come back. So I went and checked and came, vitals are okay. Then he said, go check and come back. Then I went and came back and told, okay, sir, he's moving the lower limb. Then he said, go check and come back. In other words, he was looking at me to give a report of a patient who has gone through a spine surgery involving the lower limb movements and the bladder efficacy on a lot of things in one question that he asked, how was the patient? Now, he trained me in such a fashion that next time he called, I was so complete that I won't miss out anything that is concerned with post-op spine care. Now, that's exactly what I wish to call. It's a relationship with the healthcare team. It is not a competition. It is complementing each other as we work together. So that becomes very, very important. And demographic is the population, the public. What do the public perceive about ourselves? What do our own family perceive about ourselves is a boundary. And finally, geography, national, international forum. So I'm sure people like people who are involved in the panel today, and of course the leaders of the future of nursing perspective are globally known. That makes a lot of difference within our own community. But look at a bigger picture. How well are you known in a bigger picture beyond our nursing community? So that's the breaking the barrier. So we would look at dependent, interdependent, and independent roles, which I think I'll keep it when we come to the question and answer. So your personal care involves stepping over people's usual boundaries, and sometimes we are comfortable with familiar territory where we relate with each other. What are some of the consequences of having poor boundaries? So when you lack a boundary, then you have a compassion fatigue. You feel you're overburdened, and sometimes I'm sure you would have heard this particular statement that I work hard and everything comes to me. There's someone who doesn't work hard, nothing goes to that person. So it's wrong to be good because I'm good and everybody is manipulating or capitalizing on my goodness. Now that's what is called compassion fatigue. It shouldn't stop you from doing good or doing the work, but don't fall into the fatigue. Professional esteem is yet another thing that we need to look at. I once asked the group of people, younger people I said, what was your self-esteem in a score of 10 when we were doing +2? So they said 9 and 10 and like that. And when I asked in nursing third year, what's your professional esteem in a score of 10? They said 7 and 6 and things like that. I said, your professional esteem doesn't stem only from your professionalism. It's a personal esteem. How good you are in many components of your personal relationship in this world. So don't let one perception of yours lower your professional esteem. This becomes very, very, very important for us. So we need not to look down upon us. The third one is the professional development, which involves contribution. Never look at development from listening to the talk which is given now, listening and attending a workshop, getting a certificate. It doesn't end there. It begins with when you start contributing in the question answer. If you're going to ask question, you're going to put it in the chat. See, that is how professional development comes in. Finally, fishbowl syndrome. The fishbowl syndrome, don't search in Wikipedia, it won't be there. It's a term that I coined by God's grace. And what's a fishbowl syndrome? Very simple. If you look at a fish tank, the fish which runs inside looks at the people coming and watching. And the fish thinks there is no world except the world of the fish. And the whole world is coming only to see the fish. So the fish is inside the tank or the bowl, looking at everybody coming to see the fish, and that's it. So we think we are in a bowl or in a tank, that the whole world has to come and see us. It will not come and see us unless we rock the boat or make the difference in our clinical practice, and that's how breaking the fishbowl syndrome. Professional boundaries, I think I'll expand it as I move further. What is the continuum of a professional behavior? So there are two things that are involved: under-involved, over-involved. So in your professional development, how well are you involved? Be it in your TNAI, be it in your professionalism, be it in the clinical area, be it in the hospital, public health, you name it. What's your involvement in that? It's under-involved or over-involved? Once I was talking to a couple who were from America in the canteen. They asked me, what am I doing? I said something, and they kept the coffee down and they said, oh, amazing, fantastic. I didn't know what exactly I said. So I asked them back. So I asked them, what is that you're so surprised at my reply? They said, we like your reply, because I didn't know. Unknowingly, what I said was, I am involved in emergency care. So they looked at the word. They said, you are not working in emergency department. You are not serving in emergency department. I like the choice of your word, involved. So I used it out of colloquial usage of English without even understanding the meaning. But the people who listened thought you are involved. Look at your own professionalism. How involved are you in your professionalism, in your professional career, in your nurse as a ICU nurse, public health, ward, surgical, wherever you work? How involved are you? I think that becomes very important in our breaking the boundaries. And if you don't do that, it affects our professionalism to unprofessional, the boundaries. When the boundary lines are blurry, okay, then it becomes complicated. For example, I am trained to intubate, and when need arises in emergency, I assist for intubation. Worst case scenario, I have to help out, I do intubate. Now that's a role I play, but that's not my job description. Now, whenever there is an intubation, I don't run for it. I make my boundary very clear and seek the respect by virtue of my performance. I don't overstep beyond my boundary. But when I do that, because I would like to show myself off, then the boundary becomes blurry, and then you will be discarded of your responsibility. Okay, setting and maintaining the boundary becomes important for a mutual respect and productivity, which will enhance the quality patient care. So now I'll come to the trauma nursing and how you can break the boundaries. I trust I'm keeping up with the time. Okay, 12:18, another 10 minutes to go. Okay, so if you look at the trauma nursing perspective, it becomes very important because the trauma is on the rise in spite of pandemic. Okay, in pandemic, the road traffic accident came down, but domestic violence never stopped. People remained at home, they fought and they hit each other, and a lot of things were happening. So the trauma continues to be on the rise. Now, team is very important in the trauma care. This is one of my training that I had in Israel on the mass casualty management. All of us involved there are doctor, nurse, and paramedic. We are one team in the simulation. Now tell me who's the doctor there, who's the nurse there, and who's the paramedic there. We submerge, we diffuse into the role of saving the life of the patient, very clear of our boundaries, but at the same time, complement each other towards resuscitating the patient. So in trauma nursing, in the trauma care, so the boundary is such, so clear cut, but yet so, mirage like kind of scenario. It's not seen obviously outside, even though it's drawn inside. So if you look at the trauma nursing, it's a specialty. And that's why, I'm always telling that visualize yourself as a trauma nurse, toxicology nurse, endocrine nurse, cardiology nurse. That may not be your designation. Don't worry about it. But when you introduce, it makes a difference. People start asking you. When you say, I'm a toxic nurse, or a toxic nurse sounds frightening, because sometimes people refer me as a disaster man. I say, don't tell me disaster man. I am disaster management nurse. I'm not a disaster nurse, okay? The words make it a little different. I'm giving you an example. If you are a trauma nurse and tell to someone, I'm a trauma nurse, I'm an emergency nurse, they ask you back, no, we haven't heard the term. What do you mean by emergency? Then you start telling them, we are involved in resuscitation, we are certified for cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Okay, so people get to know. Whenever I teach my students, I give them two words. One is projection, and the second word is show off. Don't show off. Don't show how good you are. That is the negative. Projection is positive. Project your profession. Project your performance. Don't project yourself. It's very important for you to know when you talk to the patient, you check the dorsalis pedis for compartment syndrome. But you tell the patient, I'm keeping a watch on a complication. So far it's good. There's no such complication. But I or any nurse would periodically check you on that. So the patient looks at you and saying, oh my God, they are not touching my food, but they're checking some pulse and keeping a watch on me. So it is a specialty approach that we need to take. And look at the big perspective of trauma nurse practitioner, which is a feasible, safe, effective. I'm looking at a dream in future where in India, there will be a program where the nurse-led trauma care. I know the significant role played by the midwives of our country. Phenomenally as a nurse practitioner. There are the hematology nurse is another field. Okay, there are many fields that are really taking up onto independent role that the professionalism is played, and we look at it in that perspective. Okay, so there are quality managers in trauma, and trauma nursing rounds is very important. So you do the rounds along with the clinician, and you contribute in the clinical. It's not taking order, fulfilling the order, but contributing the observation of yourself on the patient on a clinical program. Okay, and the trauma care process with the discharge planning, including the patient and the follow-up. Okay, coming to the end, so don't get worried about is it a time factor. So I'm on the last but one slide. So if you look at the role that you can play, I'm talking about trauma nursing in breaking the barrier. Trauma nurse, bedside care, early management of trauma care, emergency room, you're a trauma nurse. And you develop yourself, you are ATLS certified or EMTC certified or the CPN certified of the country on trauma care. Now, if you do that, you move on to the next stage of trauma nurse, educator. What can you do, educator? Two roles you can play. One, on the public. You educate the public, create awareness, take up a zone. And, for example, DIP. DIP is DIP. That means Delhi Injury Prevention Program. So you develop a Delhi Injury Prevention Program and you run the program for you. Delhi is too large a place. Narrow down to your particular territory, your district, your hospital. So you can educate the public. And the other side is clinical. You can be a trauma nurse educator in the clinical, walk to the patient, and in the post-op care, in the ward care, you prepare them for home care, food to eat, cast care, the trauma care, and all that need to be done. You can even go up home visit to follow up as a trauma nurse educator. The third role as a trauma nurse educator, you can be qualified to train the staff nurse to become a trauma nurse. Then trauma nurse manager, you become a supervisor, and again, your mindset is only on trauma nurse. Currently, I'm coordinating the trauma center at CMC Velo, and this is a level 1 trauma center. God willing, will be rising up shortly. So we are looking at the big picture like that. Exclusively trauma care, trauma nurse manager, trauma quality manager. This is very, very, very important. See, this will control the trauma team activities. It's not only with the nurses. It look at the whole team's performance in quality assurance through quality indicators of trauma. So then you are a trauma nurse researcher, evidence-based practice, national and international, trauma nurse coordinator for mass casualty management within your hospital and a district or any NGOs which are focused with trauma care. Even World Bank is giving a lot of funds to ensure trauma prevention in country-wise or at Asia. So to conclude, I'm coming to the vital thing that the take-home stage is that's what Stephen Covey, you know quite well, Stephen Covey. He says that if the ladder is not leaning against the right wall, every step we take just gets us to the wrong place faster. So don't climb, younger generation or the young nurses listening. Don't self-limit yourself. Don't identify yourself. Let your perception be empowering yourself of whichever place you are working in and move forward on the right ladder, in the right direction, so that you will be empowered to empower your younger generation. I trust with this note, I want to thank the team that permitted me and the CBS along with that for to respect. And I trust there are questions or anything which will be taken later at that time that will be given for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Really, it was an ice-breaking session and an informative session for all the nurses. Sir has clarified regarding the role clarification. He also said regarding the role identity, role perception, and the role performance also. And sir has also said about which are our types of the boundaries in which the nurse should work, and also what are the consequences of the boundaries also. And sir has clearly explained about the professional behavior, how a professional should. And also he has explained very nicely about the trauma nursing boundaries like nurse educator, quality manager. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for being with us and empowering us. I just hand over the session to Bindu ma'am for the inviting the next speaker and introducing the next speaker. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we have another young and vibrant speaker with us. He's Mr. Matthew Varghese. He has done his Master's in Critical Care Nursing from RAK College of Nursing, Delhi University. He has additional qualification in palliative care as well as a fellowship in hematology nursing practice. He is currently working as a nursing officer in IRCH, that is Institute Rotary Cancer Hospital, All India Institute of Medical Science, New Delhi. He has an experience of over 14 years in both clinical as well as the teaching field. He is a joint secretary of Oncology Nurses Association of India, Delhi chapter. His achievements are quite numerous. He has publications in indexed and international journals as well as various magazines. He's an organizer, panelist, and resource person in state and national conferences, editorial board member in prestigious journals, developed patient education booklet on multiple myeloma, both in English and Hindi, as well as an Android mobile app known as CanScreen on common cancer screening and preventive measures. He has undertaken, I was seeing a CV, he has undertaken a lot of sessions. His forte is preventive oncology. Around 13 sessions on cancer screening and prevention he has taken, and as well as presented papers in international forums. He is also, awardee of various prestigious awards. He's a rank holder, the President's Gold Medal winner in Delhi University in his master's program, prize winner in the scientific paper competitions, Best Oncology Nurse Award by Oncology Nurses Association of India, as well as he has been, his academic performance has also been quite commendable. He's a rank holder as well as in the fellowship in hematology nursing, as well as the best academic student award even in his baccalaureate program. So we are really, glad to have Mr. Matthew with us, and I would welcome Mr. Matthew to take over the session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your wonderful intro. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible? Is it okay?
Yes, Matthew, you are audible. Yes, can you put on the full screen?
Thank you, madam. It's already in full screen.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this webinar for giving me an opportunity to interact with such a wonderful audience. And I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the organizers, Trained Nurses Association of India and Nursing Teachers Association of India, as well as CBS Publishers for organizing such a wonderful program titled empowered nurses to empower the nurses. And I'm very sure that this platform gives opportunity new nurses like me to interact with nursing community and to share our ideas. So today we are talking about the topic on nurses' role in cancer prevention and screening. And as we know, cancer is one of the major non-communicable disease in low and middle income countries like India. And the World Health Organization estimated that 30 to 50% of all cancers are preventable. And 1/3 of more cancer diagnosis can be avoided by reducing the risk factors, especially the modifying risk factors. But between the modifiable behaviors, hereditary and genetic risk, infectious agents, and more, the general public find itself most unprepared to tackle cancer prevention and conversation. So how to handle this unpreparedness, I think the nurses have a major role. We can educate the public to regarding the various cancer screening procedures as well as the preventive measures. So before going to the in-depth of the topic, I would like to discuss about what is the cancer burden in India. As per the Globocan data 2020, when we take the both sexes, the most prevalent cancer is the breast cancer, and which accounts around 13.5%, followed by mouth and lip cancer 10.3%, and cervical cancer 9.4%. So if we discuss the incidence or prevalence separate, when we take the male community, the most prevalent cancer is the lip and oral cavity. It accounts around 16.2%. And the major villain is here tobacco or smoking. Then followed by lung cancer, that is 8%. Then stomach cancer 6.3%. Whereas in female community, more than 25%, that is 26.3% is breast cancer, followed by cervical cancer, that is 18.3%, and cancer, that is 6.7%. And in conclusion, we can say that the Indian population, the topmost 5 cancer affect Indian population is breast cancer, oral cancer, cervical cancer, lung cancer, and gastric cancer. So to tackle this one, the government of India have already released an operational framework in August 2016 to roll out population-based screening and management of common cancers in India. I hope that you all are aware about this operational framework, and I will be discussing some of the major points in this operational framework in upcoming slides. So what is cancer screening and prevention? So first, let's see what is screening. Screening is the process of identifying an unrecognized disease in an individual without signs or symptoms. In the process of screening, a person may be found to have a particular disease or a condition or at a great risk of its development. Cancer screening aims to detect cancer before symptom appears. So that is the main thing. The main objective of cancer screening is to detect cancer before its first symptoms appears. So what are the benefits? Of course, early diagnosis of the disease, thereby treating the disease on time. For example, most of the cases, especially the breast cancer cases, come to us in the cancer stage 3 or 4, which we know that it's the later stages of the disease where the mortality rate or death rate is very high. So when we actively participate in these types of screening procedures or preventive measures, we'll be able to find out the breast cancer cases in its early stages like stage 1 or 2, where the good prognosis rate is present. So early stage disease has very good survival compared to the late stage, we know that, and also treatment is also here. Incident or mortality can be reduced by these types of screening measures. And cancer screening in India, we have already discussed the operational framework, which mentioned in the previous slide, which was initiated by the government of India under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare from August 2016 onwards. They are facing mainly 3 cancers, that oral cancer, cervical cancer, and breast cancer. Why we are focusing on these 3 cancers? 2 reasons are there. One, these are the 3 cancers more prevalent in our Indian population. And second one is the screening procedures or screening tech for these cancers are very simple, and also it can be easily applicable, or it can be easily carried out in our peripheral centers like sub-centers and private health centers. So the government of India focusing upon these 3 cancers mainly. So this is the table which shows about this program. So in the first one is the oral screening cancer or oral cancers. The age of beneficiary for all three cancers start from the age of 30 years till 65 years. And the method of screening is for oral cancer is oral visual examination. So oral visual examination, here we are just examining or we are looking for the precancerous lesions, especially erythroplakia or leukoplakia, which are the precancerous lesions later may be converted into oral cancers. And the frequency of screening is once in 5 years. And if we suspect any precancerous lesions in oral visual examination, we'll be able to refer the patient to surgeon, dentist, ENT specialist or medical officer at higher center level like CHC or a district hospital. In cervical cancer, same the age of beneficiary, that is 30 to 65 years, where the main method of screening is visual inspection of acetic acid or VIA. VIA is where we are applying the freshly prepared 5% acetic acid on the cervix, and we will looking for the color changes. So if the cervix is healthy, it will look like a pinkish color. If it is changing into whitish patches, that means there is some cancerous lesion or a cancerous lesion. So in that case, we have to refer the patient to the higher center for the further follow-up and confirmation. It is also we have to carry out once in 5 years. And the breast cancer, again, same age group we are enrolling this program, and here of screening is CBE, that is clinical breast examination. And we know the gold standard for screening the cancer breast is the mammogram, but the recent studies published from the Tata Memorial Hospital also claim that CBE, clinical breast examination done by an expert person or a trained person, which is equally equal to the findings of the mammogram. So the lower middle income countries like India can be, it's not easy to set up a mammogram unit in the periphery center like sub-center or PHC, but we can set up a center to screen the cancer breast by using CBE technique by an expert person. So it is easily we can carry out, so that India like countries, CBE will be the better option when compared to mammogram. Here also, if we suspect any lumps or any warning signs of cancer breast, we can refer that patient to a higher center for biopsy confirmation. So these are the main activities comes under the operational operational framework released by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in 2016 August. So now comes the main topic, that is the nurses' role in cancer prevention. So we know that nurses are the center to health in all disciplines. Of course, they are the key healthcare workers, and oncology is also no exception. And nurses are the crucial members of healthcare team in cancer prevention and control through lifespan. So oncology nurses have a tremendous role in cancer prevention, not only to follow cancer prevention primary and secondary screening recommendation, but to also help educate others about importance of prevention. Here the word others, we should give higher importance, because the term others can be a broader category. It includes our patients, our caregivers, our family members, or our nurses who are not working in oncology setup. So I think these types of webinar will give an opportunity to those nurses who are interested in cancer screening and prevention, but who are not working in oncology setup. These types of webinar will give some idea about what all training programs are available to equip the nurses to become a good cancer screening nurse or preventive oncology nurse. Why nurses? Why we are choosing the nurses in health system to do all these types of screening activities? Because one of the most valuable tool of nurses have their ability to build deep professional relationship with our patient family members, and using our cancer specific expertise and experience along with the ability to build those trusting relationships, oncology nurses can convey the importance of cancer prevention across the countless different settings. So that is the main things, because our nurse patient relationship is very deep, as well as the professional relationship help us to give the education to the public in different setting, individual level, family level, as well as community level, to educate regarding the various cancer prevention measures and screening technique. And through cancer prevention conversations, oncology nurses can have a huge impact on the future of public health. Although the immediate benefits are difficult to observe, cancer prevention helps nurses have lives on micro level. Of course, maybe in the initial step, we may not be able to observe its effects, but I am very sure that in the later, our small steps will be able to control these non-communicable disease burden in our country. So how we can do small steps like we have already discussed. There are various risk factors of cancer, both modifiable and non-modifiable. So we are focusing on the modifiable risk factors like tobacco use, poor diet, low levels of physical activity, alcohol consumption, workplace and environmental carcinogens, exposure to radiation, and immunization against hepatitis B vaccine and human papilloma virus. So we know that hepatitis B vaccine is a very common vaccine which we are taking the healthcare as a healthcare professionals. We have also to against hepatitis B infections, but also it is hepatitis B virus is the commonest agent for hepatocellular carcinoma. It's commonly known as HCC or liver cancer, and it has a very poor prognosis rate too. So if we take hepatitis B vaccine, we will get a protection against hepatocellular carcinoma, as well as human papilloma virus or HPV virus. So human papilloma virus is the causative agent of one of the commonest causative agent of cervical cancer as well as oral cancer. So there are vaccination available against HPV, and we can vaccinate our girl child after the age of 9 years. If we take the vaccine between the age of 9 and 14 years, we have to give 2 doses. If vaccinate after 14 years, we have to give 3 doses. And we have to also prevent the infection with Helicobacter pylori. Helicobacter pylori is the causative agent for gastric carcinoma. So these are some of the small measures by that we can reduce the modifiable risk factors of cancer, thereby we can prevent the cancer in future. So now comes to the training education for nurses. How we can empower, how we can equip our nurses regarding the cancer prevention and screening. For that, under the ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, there is an institution known as National Institute of Cancer Prevention and Research, NICPR. It's situated in Noida. They are conducting a training program for nurses, dentists, medical graduates, as well as the gynecology specialists. So to prepare nurses for this major role, educational programs in cancer prevention and detection must be introduced for all nurses. Nurses are trained to identify risk factors, and they have the communication and teaching skill to work with individuals, families, and communities to change behavior to reduce risk factor. Now we'll see in detail about the cancer screening training program for nurses, that is CSTPN. So what is the main aim? To train nurses working in different levels of Indian healthcare system in population-based cancer screening of the 3 most common cancers in India as per the recommendations of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. In this program, they are focusing mainly 3 cancers: oral cancer, breast cancer, and cervical cancer. What the teaching method is: 10 weeks virtual training through Zoom app, followed by 3 days hands-on training at NICPR Noida. And what are the objectives? To train nurses in cervical cancer screening technique like pap smear and VIA visual inspection of acetic acid, and treatment of precancerous cervical lesion using ablative methods. Second objective is to train nurses in breast cancer screening mainly through clinical breast examination. And third one is to train nurses in oral cancer screening through oral visual examination and brief advice for tobacco session. And the last objective is to educate nurses on other important aspects of infection control and documentation screening results. And the eligibility, at least 70% of attendance should be there, and at least 1 case per patient has to be presented either from cancer breast, cancer cervix, or a oral cancer. Then minimum 50% of each of the post modules and 80% of is the score needed to get the eligibility certificate. And complete both pre and post training evaluation is must. So this is the one of the courses available. It's a free of cost course. It's available. You can check the website of National Institute of Cancer Prevention and Research. Now I would like to share some of my activities which I have started. One activity which I started in 2019 December. It's a nurse-led breast care clinic. It's in Kerala, the private hospital. The main task of this is a nurse-led breast care clinics. The nurses are the main members. Among nurses, we have also mammography technicians. And we are focusing upon mainly 3 activities: training, counseling, and screening. So we'll train the professionals as well as the normal community peoples regarding how to do the breast cancer screening, like breast self-examination, and we'll also give counseling and screening also. Next one is the network cancer teaching. I think you all are aware about this diagram. This is very common diagram which was seen in network marketing. So, there are lots of pros and cons for network marketing. So if we take the positive thing of this networking marketing, we'll teach one patients regarding cancer teaching, cancer screening especially. So now we are focusing on the cancer breast. So while we are teaching cancer breast screening or preventive measures to a particular person, we will tell that they have to teach 2 persons. So they can select 2 of their close friends or family members, and they will teach mainly 5 things to them. For example, if you take the breast cancer, we will teach them what is breast cancer, what is breast cancer, then what are the risk factors. Especially, we are giving special attention or focus to the modifiable risk factors of breast cancer. Then prevention of breast cancer, and self-breast awareness or breast self-examination. So these are the 5 main topics which we are covering under the NCT. And we make sure that this has to be carried out and this chain will be continued. And another thing is we have already started something known as CAN Help community health groups. So currently we have only 4 groups, 2 are in Delhi and 2 are in Kerala. Some of the patients' relatives as well as the patient itself interested to give community cancer screening awareness and prevention measures. So these CAN Help groups are handled by the non-medical volunteers only. Currently, we have 4 groups, one in South Delhi headed by Ms. Roshni, and another one in Ghaziabad headed by Ms. Nancy, and the third one in Cochin in Kerala, and 4th one is again in Kerala, Manarka. So these are going up, and I hope that this CAN Help group will give more community awareness. So main activities of CAN Help group is they give cancer awareness, and they'll also awareness through actively participating our network cancer teaching and supporting cancer patients, and also motivating the family members in cancer care and screening. So guiding